Yeah. Hello, Shravani, Sita. Good morning. Welcome to the session. Let's start. Okay, let us go to AWS console. And let me confirm, is my voice clear? Is there any disturbance? Please let me know in chat boxes. Okay, audible, clear. Okay. AWS Management Console. Yes, in last class we have been talking about Route 53, and we know Route 53 is DNS resolver. Sorry, not DNS resolver. Route 53 is domain name registration. It is DNS management service. How to it maintains records, A record, CNAME record, alias records. We can create here. Also, mail server records. Hosted zone is there here, and we have talked about various routing policies that we can use in the records, right? So this is Route 53, and it is global service. And when you search for Route 53, we have all these things. Route 53, the one which we talked about, which is a DNS a management service, which maintains records simply. And there is Route 53 resolver, and you can see this resolve DNS queries in your Amazon VPC and on-premises network. This is regional one. If you go to Route 53, you can see anyway here it is a global service. And why it is global, we know. It works on public internet. It maps IP addresses with the actual registered DNS name or subdomains like ELB addresses or S3 bucket or alias names with the DNS registered name. So it's a global service, and we have one more Route 53, which is regional one. It's a Route 53 resolver. And Route 53 pricing. So managing hosted zone. So this is for the Route 53 which we have discussed. We pay for monthly charge for East hosted zone managed with Route 53. Serving DNS queries, managing domain names. These are the job which Route 53 does. alias queries, health checks. So all these things are there. Now let's go and check this. The Route 53 resolver. This is DNS resolver service for VPCs. It's regional, and I'm in North Virginia region. So this Route 53 is valid within this region, and other services which I set up in this region, it's not global one. So where this Route 53 will be helpful is to route traffic between the VPCs. You can create a hosted zone within a region, add VPCs, route traffic from one VPC to another VPC, and you can see how it works. This we have two VPCs here, and this is our network, our on-premises network, and this is resolver. And now this resolver we use to route traffic within the VPC services within the VPCs. See DNS, for example, this is the DNS. Yes. So if you want to resolve the traffic with certain DNS names, so here, yes, we can use this resolver. See, we are using these DNS names from where? From the other VPCs within the AWS itself. And here you can see, so it's routing traffic to the other VPCs. So this is how it works. It's a recursive DNS for VPCs, and it is Amazon regional service. And let's go to hosted zone. Say here configure endpoint. Let us go to Sydney region. That is where my the configure endpoint. So it asks direction of DNS queries. You can configure endpoints for inbound DNS queries to your VPC, outbound DNS queries from the VPC, or both. So let us choose inbound and outbound, both inbound and outbound. We know what inbound and outbound is. Next. VPC. Choose VPC. This is our VPC. Security group for this endpoint. Let us go with the default security group, or say a default security group. We can change it later. Availability zone. Way to be. subnet. So this is optional. So use an IP address that is selected automatically. Next, configure outbound endpoint. Say this is outbound endpoint. Choose VPC, security group, default, and then availability zone 2A and 2B. Next. So now we are adding the DNS rule. So let's call it as DNS rule. So we are forwarding DNS queries to IP addresses you specify. So forward to when coming from Azure Cloud .net. This is the DNS. So choose VPC. This is the VPC. So now target IP addresses. I don't have EC2 servers. So you can add IP addresses here. So let us type in anything. Okay, next. So traffic direction, everything is there, right? So now we can submit it. So we have records already, and DNS resolver is also something like that, mapping the DNS queries to IP addresses. Here we can use using endpoints using DNS resolver within the VPCs itself. So that is DNS resolver. Just give me a minute, guys. Yeah, sorry for the delay, guys. So this is how we create, and when it is useful, DNS resolver. We have talked about Route 53, and we know how it works. It works in the public internet. You can add, if you have a public registered domain name, you can add, create a public hosted zone and write records. You can route traffic to ELBs, EC2 instances, and other endpoints, alias endpoints. We know that. And we talked about VPC peering also, transit gateways also. When we already have VPC peering and transit gateways to communicate between VPCs, then why this Route 53 resolver? And we are saying it's regional service, right? Let me go back, and here also configure inbound, outbound. Let's say create rule, go to fourth step. So this is our target IP address. So let us create this. Next. Submit. Query login status not set up. Resolver. It's a part of Route 53. Let's go back and understand. See how this will be helpful is, suppose I'm very particular about traffic coming from certain network. I have a network and I want Route 53 to resolve traffic coming from certain network, not from the public internet. So in such scenarios, we can configure endpoints. Sorry. For this background noises, guys. Actually, I have traveled to other place. From tomorrow onwards, I'll ensure that there won't be any background noises. Okay, we are talking about this one, right? So to add certain networks, uh, if traffic is coming from certain networks, and we want DNS resolver to route the traffic internally within the VPCs. And we want Route 53 to internally route within the VPCs, then we use this DNS resolver. See, this is the network outside to the AWS. And if it is a private hosted zone, we know Route 53 can resolve within the EC2 instances. If it is public internet, Route 53 can resolve and map those DNS queries with the IP addresses. We also know this. Suppose if you want to resolve the request coming from certain network, so that's where we use this DNS resolver. So we have configured endpoints, inbound endpoints, right? And here we cannot, we have to specify the VPC. So within the VPC, DNS will be able to route the traffic. Okay. And the availability zones. So within the VPC, within the availability zones which you are mentioning, so here the Route 53 will route the traffic, both inbound and outbound. And next, create a rule. So while in this step, create a rule step. So here you will add an IP address from where that query comes from. So the target should be a IP address of your laptop or anything. Then even though this you have not opted for public hosted zone, um, if traffic is coming from that particular IP address, then your DNS resolver will tries to map within the VPC services. So that is Route 53 resolver. So creating your resources, this can take several minutes. Let's go to resolver and check there. Two rules, query. So internet resolver complete DNS rule. So this is the VPC ID. And what we have done is, from this IP address, if I have sent any query, DNS query comes, then within this VPC, this resolver will able to route the traffic. So I have not used I have used some random IP address. So this is how it works. So if you are particular about the traffic coming from certain IP addresses, and you can add more IP addresses. So, say for example, you have an organization and there are few people working on this. Then you can set up a DNS resolver and add IP addresses of all those computers. Then this DNS resolver will route the traffic. So there you need not use your ELB endpoints or IP addresses of EC2 instances. You can use this domain name, and this DNS resolver within the VPC, whatever you have given here, will route the traffic. So that is the difference between the Route 53 and the resolver, Route 53 resolver. Clear, guys? Any doubts? So now we will talk about cloud formation. Just give me a minute. Cloud formation. We talked about at the starting of our sessions, we have talked about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, right? This cloud formation is, we can say, code as a service. And here you can say, use your own template or sample template to quickly get started. What is this cloud formation is for? Cloud formation provides infrastructure resources in your environment in safe and repeatable way. So let's understand what is this cloud formation. Let us create a stack. Yes, let us create a stack. You can use ready template or use a sample template or create template in designer. So let us see use a sample template. And AWS offers some sample templates. Let us look into those sample templates. So this is LAMP stack. LAMP means Linux, Apache, MySQL um, stack. That is LAMP. So create a LAMP stack using EC2 instance, EC2 instance of Linux type, and with Apache installed in it, and MySQL database coming with it. So that's why it's called as LAMP stack. Or Ruby or Rails stack. So Ruby comes with the installation EC2 instance with Ruby installed in it, and also with MySQL database for storage. WordPress blog. So the template installs WordPress on a local MySQL database for storage. So these are some templates. So let us use LAMP stack and check what it does. And automatically this LAMP stack is available at this place. And how? Already AWS creates one S3 bucket with CloudFormation templates with the name with this, and then puts this LAMP stack there. And this is a sample template provided by AWS itself. They create this S3 bucket and they'll put this LAMP stack details there. So let us see what happens. We will say view in designer. Simple, there is a security group, there is a web server. And we talked about LAMP stack, but the Apache, the MySQL, which we talked about the lab, that those has to be installed within the EC2 instance. So we cannot see that is internal to the EC2 instance. So simply what here we can do is we can drag and drop and create the resources. So whatever you give here, those resources will be automatically created. That's why it called as cloud formation. You are forming cloud services, whatever you want. Just you have to drag and drop. Or if you are good at JSON, go and start programming. Say if you are a busy cloud solutions architect, say you need to set up lot of services, cloud formation will be very useful. You can create a template and also you can reuse it. Automatically whatever you mention here in the stack will get created. So now you can also see that visualization what you are creating here. You can also drag and drop from here. Say I also need an S3 bucket. Let us go. Where is S3? Here it is. Drag and drop S3 bucket. Here is S3 bucket. And you can also create dependencies over here. See, your S3 bucket depends on when, after the completion of this web server, okay. So after completion of this web server, so let us here the dependency. This is a dependency we are creating, but not able to do so. Let us put dependency here or this way, this way. Okay, since it's a AWS managed template, we are not able to create a dependency. No problem. Let's add one more thing. My S3 bucket has to be created when let us add a dependency of another service. Say IoT account audit configuration. A lot of things are there here. This is go to EC2. Let us say EC2, drag and drop EC2 here. What type of EC2 again? Instance. So when I drag and drop this EC2 here, here you can see the JSON code is automatically we are getting here. It's getting populated here. And the extra details which we mentioned for EC2 instance, like instance type, EBS type, how many EBS volumes you want, region, all those things you can mention over here in this segment. So now you can also create this dependency because we want S3 bucket for some reason if EC2 instance is there. If EC2 is not there, we don't want S3 bucket. Why? Because let's say EC2 server is hosting a web application and the contents in the S3 bucket, we need that S3 buckets only if this EC2 is ready because EC2 is the actual front end web application running on it and S3 bucket has the content where EC2 access from the S3 bucket. So in such scenarios, you can create dependency. See, now dependency has been created. So S3 bucket creation is dependent upon EC2. Simply when EC2 is ready, then only the stack will create S3. If there is no dependency, then S3 creation, it is independent. It is not depend upon EC2 or any other thing. So that is dependencies. And you can add other things which are required for EC2 instance like security groups and then volumes, images. If you already have an AMI, the images, you can use any image. We are using Linux AMI 2 image, right? So specifying images and EC2 host property and then EC2 volumes attachment, EFS volumes attachments, EBS volumes attachments. So all these things you can attach over here. These purple dots are for those things related to or things that EC2 needs. And S3 bucket we don't have except the bucket properties, policies, etc. So we are just creating a dependency, and the dependency is S3 bucket has to create after EC. But let us delete this. We already have this template lamp stack. Yeah. You can design in this way. This portal is called as designer portal, and then you can create stack from here. This icon you can create stack, and you can validate the template. If you are using designer, if you are creating your workflow in the designer, validate your template and then create the stack. So let's say validate the template. So template is valid. Now upload it. Let us create things stack. So we are back here in the same console. And previously we have this, right? So it's using the same S3 URL again. Next, create a stack name. I'll call it as lamp stack only. Now it is asking us parameters. Since we are creating a database which resides within your EC2 instance, this is not AWS managed database we are opting for. We are installing MySQL within the EC2 instance, and it will be automatically there. Yeah. Give a password, DB username, and then key name, because it has to create EC2 instance. Let us give a password. So instance type, you can choose, let us say t2.micro is our instance, which is 3-tier eligible. And then key pair. So I have this key pair within this region. So I got it. So select this. Or create one key pair. You can go to EC2 portal and create one key pair. Come here and give it that. SSH location, we are using cider block of internet. Next. I don't want this. So configure stack actions. If you want to give any key value paste, you can specify here. Anyway, it's optional. You can skip it. Permissions, I am role. Why? We know this. Because CloudFormation needs permissions to create EC2 instance and also to create security group, etc. We need an I am role and need not bother about this. You can automatically assign I am role. If you want to assign any other additional I am role also, you can specify here. So I am role name ARN. It is optional here. So where I am role will be helpful. Suppose as we discussed, if EC2 instance need S3 access, there you can give the I am role. So that's it. And next review and create. Estimate, you can also estimate costs over here. So let us not use this. We will use a template which I have already. This is a sample template. Let us go to stacks once again, create stack. Yeah, those are sample templates which you can try. You can also try in template designer, or you can directly upload if template is ready with you. You can get ready your template through JSON and you can bring in the template here. You can upload a template file, or you can upload template in S3 and use S3 URL here. Both the ways. Let us upload a template file. Choose a file. A CloudFormation template. Just like this templates. This one, it creates EC2 and S3. Let us also look into the architecture. So where, sorry, cancel, go here. This is what we are doing with this template. It will create S3 and EC2 instance, of course, along with the security group. And if we look into this code, we will come back to this. Let's go here, upload this .json code here, create stack, use a sample template is ready. Upload template file, choose file. We are trying to upload the .json. View in designer. Without viewing in designer also, you can go to creation. Here we are creating EC2 instance, S3 bucket. And if you want to create EC2 instance, we need a security group, we know that, and S3 bucket. And there is a dependency of S3 bucket on EC2 instance. So let us create this stack. You can go back and create, or you can say create stack here. Next. So now these details we have to specify in our code. So now it's asking me stack name. Let us call this is as EC2 S3 stack. Parameters, key name, SSH location, all these things. We have these options. When these options will come is if you specify them in the JSON code. Let us look into the code now. You can see the parameters, instance type. This is the first parameter. And what we are saying is allowed values are t1.micro, t2.nano. We are allowing only these two values. Let us go to the console once. Instance type. I can only switch between t1.micro or t2.nano. Not entire instance type are available here. So let us go for t2.nano this time. And the key name. So key name, it will automatically come from your AWS itself. When you create a key name, that will be a regional, and that will be there saved in AWS console. So whatever keys are available within this region, right now we are in Sydney region. So keys that are saved in this region will appear here. So we will choose this. Let us go and check the same thing in the code. Okay, key name. So name of an existing key pair. So we are getting it from AWS EC2 key pair key name. So this is what we call the endpoint name, the key pair endpoint name. And then SSH location. So by default, we are giving SSH location as internet sided. This is internet sided. And allowed pattern, all these details are related to this one, SSH allocation. And here we don't have an option. By default, we have set it as internet sided block. Next, tags. Here you can mention the tags, but anyway, it's optional. And also, there is, let us check in the code. We have not created tags. No. That's why it was grayed out also. No tags. Coming to permissions, here if you want to assign any role, you can, but we are not assigning any role to EC2 instance. Let us skip it. And next, create. And if you look into the code, we have other details. We are allowing T1.micro and T2.nano. We are mapping. And then region. So we can create EC2 instance in all these regions. So that's why we are specifying all these regional details. And these are AMI IDs. Uh, Using this AMI, EC2 instance will get created. So why we are specifying this? We are specifying AMI for each region. So this is US East 1, US East 2, and so on. All the regions we have listed here. Key name, image ID, security group, of course. In the security group, we are automatically adding that SSH rule. You can see port number 22 and SSH location, which it gets. And SSH location is CIDR block of internet. And S3 bucket details. And then it depends on EC2 instance. And then we are choosing the other details related to VPCs and availability zones, right? So those things. And we are enabling public IP. So everything is happening here in the code itself. So if you have this code once ready, you can reuse it. Even though you have to create 50 services, if you have code ready for that, you can reuse this template with a bit of modification. So that's why it's called as code as a service, cloud formation, where you form your set of services automatically through your code. So go here. Then we have chosen all the things. We have not chosen AMI because it's hard coded in our code. Now let's create stack. So create in progress. It takes some time. So now see you can security group creation has been done, and then instance security group creation in progress again. Now EC2 S3 stack creation in progress. Let's go and check to EC2 what is happening there. One instance is running T2.nano, right? It came from CloudFormation. And also let's check in S3. A lot of S3s are there. Let us arrange them according to creation date. July 30, see EC2 S3 stack bucket. And also CF templates, this bucket has been created. What this contains, let's see. It contains templates. When you upload any code here in CloudFormation, first it will save it in S3 bucket and it will access from the S3 bucket. So that ECT S3.json which I have uploaded, we uploaded from our laptop, actually it gets saved in S3, and from there the stack will get created. So completion is done and we have already seen we have EC2, we have S3, from where it have done CloudFormation. So that's about CloudFormation, guys. Any doubts? Clear? Okay. And let us move to other topic. We will delete this, delete, delete stack, delete in progress. You can see when I delete the stack, automatically the services created by the stack will also get deleted. That is one more advantage. Sometimes you will be overwhelmed by the services, and deletion and termination processor will also take a long time. Sometimes configuring the things, especially when you are doing auditing or cost estimation, you need to figure out the bug somewhere. Maybe you might be taking backups unknowingly. They might get piled up and your organization end up paying those extra costs unnecessarily for backups. If you use a cloud formation stack, it will be very easy to terminate and restart everything from the scratch. But of course, it's not good practice to terminate everything. This is one more advantage. If you create a stack, and if you don't want those set of services, delete the stack. All the services will also get deleted. Need not bother about them. So now let's go and talk about Elastic Beanstalk. Elastic Beanstalk run and manage web apps. How it works? Um, Whatever you need for your web application. So what anyone needs for a web application, they need some runtime for scripting. You can do your develop your web app using Python, .NET, JavaScript, Node.js. It's up to us what language we are going to use. And then for our static web pages, either we need PHP, HTML, and then we need the server application, Apache, Tomcat, these kind of applications. If it is a Windows server, we need IIS, which is that Internet Server Portal Manager in Windows operating system. So what is the procedure we have discussed so far is create a EC2 instance, install Apache in it, install Python or .NET in it, then you will have that runtime, start scripting using that runtime there, runtime or environment IDE, what we call, right? So once the installation is done, it's there. You can start scripting. And also for PHP, you need that PHP. Install it and start using PHP. And same thing with others also. So you are spending a lot of time in procurement or configuration. We say configuring the right things. So your 20 to 30% of time you spend in your web application will go there. Provisioning the right things, installations, configurations, setting up the things, creation, termination, update management, need not to say. So Elastic Beanstalk is AWS managed service which provides you that stack. You only focus on your development. Need not bother about procurement, need not bother about provisioning, need not bother about management. AWS will do it for you. You focus on your app development. Create application. Let's go. Application name. This is my Beanstalk application. Let us call it with this name. Platform. Which platform you want? Tomcat, Ruby, Python. Let us say Python or Node.js. Let's say Python. And again with Python branch, let us go to the latest one. And application code, do you want to try with sample application or upload your own code? If your own code is ready, copy to S3, start using it. Let us go for sample application. Create application. See, you need not bother about all these things. Now it is creating environment for us. Now a Beanstalk S3 bucket is getting created. Elastic Beanstalk comes under PaaS, Platform as a Service, and it is also called as automated service. Why? Because AWS has automated all these things for us. Now S3 bucket is ready. What this S3 bucket contains: templates, details, uh, what has to be created. EC2 instance has to be created. What is your EC2 configuration, etc. All those details will be first stored in your S3. That's what done. Now create environment is starting once again. This time, first time it has created S3. Environment health has transitioned to pending. That means it has created EC2 instance. So first it has created S3 bucket. So this S3 bucket for your Elastic Beanstalk reference. And then target group has been created. So what is this target group? We know target group, right? So related to ELB, something like that. Elastic load balancing target group has been created. And then security group has been created. Security group again with necessary things like SSH, HTTP, with necessary rules got created. And now what it is doing, it is creating a security group name, one more security group, and now instance is there. So let us go and check in EC2. One instance it's running, and you can see the name. And let us check load balancer. See, load balancer, it's provisioning and target groups. Yes, target group is there, and you can check target group, my beanstalk. Let us also check auto scaling. It will also create auto scaling group too. See, one auto scaling group, and if you go and check auto scaling group, uh, it has attached load balancer to auto scaling group, right? These are tags, and then security group. Let's go and check policy, automatic scaling policies. There are two policies: scale down policy, scale up policy. Now, you need not bother about any of these things. I have not created EC2 instance, load balancing, auto scaling. The entire stack is getting created by our Elastic Beanstalk. So this we call as PaaS. And previously we have created EC2 instance, that is infrastructure as a service. Now we are doing our web app stack getting created in the console through PaaS application called as Elastic Beanstalk. So let us go back to Beanstalk services. You can see the recently visited services over here. Okay, it's done. Now I have EC2 instance. Health check is okay, and sampler version is already running within my EC2, and the platform is Python 3.8 running on 64-bit Amazon Linux 2. The AMI used is Amazon Linux 2, and I have Python 3.8 running on it, and some sample application is there. So information related to these things. That is Elastic Beanstalk. So go to environment. So you can deploy Flask applications, Django applications, and you can use this Elastic Beanstalk for ECS. So knowing about ECS, ECS is one more important thing, like Elastic Container Service. What are these ECS? We already talked about EC2. Why we use EC2? EC2 are virtual machines, Elastic Cloud Compute. When you want to create a EC2, you will choose operating system. You will create a security group. And we have auto scaling groups, load balancing to manage the traffic effectively. We know these things already. However, sometimes EC2 has disadvantages when you compare over with ECS, Elastic Container Service. What are those things is deployment time. Let us give you an example. Say for example, I have a e-commerce site running on EC2 instances. Now suddenly the traffic got increased. The traffic hitting the website has been doubled up, say for example. Thanks to our auto scaling groups, they will add more instances. We know that. But deployment time matters here. It would take some time. Why? Because EC2 instance, it has to choose the AMI, the security group, etc. And to keep that EC2 ready, to get that EC2 ready, bring into the production state, it would take couple of minutes at least. In these couple of minutes, customers might experience downtime. And these e-commerce guys, they don't want that. Even that couple of minutes, business matters a lot. So if we switch from EC to ECS, Elastic Container Service, then there is no underlying dependency of operating system, because ECS is a container service. This container service will be already running on EC2 instances. So if your web application is running on ECS rather than EC2, what is the advantages? When the same e-commerce site is running on ECS and the traffic is doubled up, the same scenario happened. Now the deployment time is not just couple of minutes, it will be few seconds in ECS. Why? Because it's a container service. It doesn't have dependency on operating system, etc. So let us get started with ECS. And you can see this is ECS. There is container definition, task definition, service cluster. And here we have a sample containers, Tomcat web server container and Nginx server container, sample app. So we have something called as Fargate. So there are two types of containers again. We will talk about ECS in tomorrow's class. We will deploy on ECS. ECS is same like EC2, and ECS is a container service installed on EC2, a cluster of EC2 instances. But advantage is it provides only runtime required for your web app. So what does that mean? So if your web app needs HTTPD service, it will provide HTTPD service. You need not bother whether it's Linux OS, Windows OS, and then install HTTPD on it. No dependencies. If you need Tomcat web server, yes, it provides a Tomcat service, Tomcat platform for you. You need not bother about operating system and its setup. Same thing with other things. So the advantage is deployment time. Deployment time is greatly reduced because of this. So then you may wonder, then what is the purpose of EC2? Yes, ECS is also dependent on EC2. ECS is a software, ECS is a service which is installed on EC2. So what is happening here is, if my laptop, uh, say I am launching one server application in my laptop, I can do it in two ways. Either I can install Apache, Tomcat, any server application directly onto my laptop. That is what we have done in EC2. We have installed HTTPD service. But the disadvantage over here is the deployment time, especially when if you want to scale up or scale down. Scale down, of course, it doesn't matter, especially when you want to scale up. Deployment time matters here. So now what I'll do is I'll install container service, Docker, Kubernetes, or some examples of containers. I'll install container service, and then my web application is going to reside on container rather than my laptop. In the very same laptop, now I am using container service. The next time, if I want to scale up, I'll scale up containers. So it will be easy. The deployment time is greatly reduced. Why? Because there is no dependency of operating system, etc. Just upgrade the container, add more containers. And adding more containers means it depends upon what is there in your container. Only HTTPD is there in the container, not entire Linux OS or entire Windows OS is not there. You want to scale up the HTTPD service. Add more containers with HTTPD service, but we are not adding more Windows servers or Linux servers. So that makes the difference. So let us deploy this ECS tomorrow using Fargate, of course. And guys, any doubts related to Elastic Beanstalk, cloud formation? All right, Route 53. We also talked about Route 53 resolver. And also, I request you to do labs. Okay, clear, Ipsita, thank you. Happy weekend. See you on Monday. Bye bye. Take care.